Hello and welcome, everyone. We are your hosts. Here's Jaromir, who's joining me, and my name is Rodolfo. We're both coffee people who have another common interest, which is politics. So we thought we could do a series about coffee and politics. Because usually most of the communication, most of what's out there when you read about coffee, it's mainly marketing. It's coming from the perspective of companies that are trying to sell something. So it's usually you just get a very positive story about coffee. So we thought that we could create a space here where we talk about, um, the harsh realities of coffee and how that relates to, in a broad sense, not just politics, but the world in general, right? So this is our first talk on this series. This is going to be a general introduction. And, the most immediate thing that's affecting the world right now is obviously the war between Russia and Ukraine. So Jaromir, what can you tell us about that? You're based in the Czech Republic. You're pretty close to the conflict there, and it brings up a lot of historical issues, right?
It does, yeah, and we have talked about it. So I hope I won't go to too much detail because I think, yeah, everybody here is concerned. I mean, there's a lot of like Ukrainian flags flying around Prague and the Czech Republic in general. So there's a lot of people coming here. So that's the most direct effect that the war has had on us so far. I think it is like more than 200,000 people coming into the country in the last 5 or 6 weeks. Some of them from really terrible places. And it's really close. And yeah, some of our friends from Slovakia, it's right next to Ukraine, have been really, really close to the conflict. So it's war in Europe. It's terrible. Like at Northbeans, we already have I think there are two new people working for us who came from the conflict areas. So they were business owners mostly, who had previous experience in coffee. So one of them works as a barista now for us, and the other one is a technician, as far as I know what he's doing really. So, but it creates like interesting human interactions. So like people have their mobile phones, the Google Translate, because the people usually don't speak English or Czech or any other language. So our guys are talking to our new guys through a phone app. So that is interesting. And so that's very local from what we see here. There's a lot of turmoil in politics and in energetics, like energy policies, that will affect us in the near future.
Yeah, before we get into like, because it's a very big topic, and then related to coffee, like the roasting machines are using gas mainly, right? So, but before we get into that, I just wanted to like kind of mention or ask something. When you mentioned the numbers, you said 200,000 came into the Czech Republic from Ukraine, right? It seems like the number going to Poland is a lot bigger, right? And so I think I was reading about how a lot of Ukraine at some point was part of Poland. Like a lot of like the nobles in like Western Ukraine were like Polish. So is there still like a more historical tie between Ukraine and Poland that's like leading more people to head that way?
Or that might be some, yeah, it's sure. I'm sure it's part of the reason, but Poland is a bigger country, so there's like 40,000 of Poles, and they're a more direct neighbor, so it makes sense. And yes, you're right, like where Lviv is, that is like the western part. So there was this, I'm not sure when it's called the Curzon line, I think. It's like the one with Lviv, the Poland is there. So Poland has sort of like moved on the map in the 20th century. I mean, it sounds
it went
cynical,
west.
but
It went west, literally,
that's like,
figuratively, like.
And there was, there was this huge kingdom of Poland and Lithuania even before that. So there's a lot of presence in the eastern wing of Europe of Polish heritage. But yes, it's close and there's more direct access. So that's a place to go, obviously, for a lot of people. But people are coming from different regions from Ukraine. You already see it here. I mean, some of them are close to Romania, so I have some info from there. So it's relatively common there. But then I have a friend and his family is from Izum, which is the most direct. It's in the between Donetsk and Luhan. It's like this one city. And it's really, they say it's the second Mariupol, really. So his whole family is already here, and he's, they live in his tiny apartment, and yeah, it's tough for him. So you get personal stories as well. But from the coffee, like from the bigger picture, I didn't want to run away from it. So like I read somewhere that the global coffee market went down, or actually I could have looked it up. That's not too hard. But I think like what has been sort of like priced in is the lower demand for coffee in Russia and Ukraine. And I think like Russia has been like counted as 6 million of bags and Ukraine 1.5. So it's really a lot of coffee. So I think it's like double what Ethiopia exports. Won't be, or probably won't be, imported to these two countries. I mean, people still drink coffee, but the coffee shops can't open, and people have different things to carry about
chickpea war coffee.
Yeah. So yeah, but that's a lot of coffee bags that won't be imported into these countries or roasted there. A lot of businesses going bankrupt, and yeah, a lot of lives changed. So it's I mean, there's a lot of coffee around the world, and obviously a lot of coffee drank in Ukraine and Russia as well.
So the other big thing that Russia has is gas. And, I guess your company's roasting machine uses gas.
Yes.
Right. So that's your costs are going up, right?
So like the cost of gas is like 300% up. I mean, like people, it's not connected to what we do, but people here who wanted to save on on petrol, so they may have their cars redone to run on gas. So there will be like gas stations, and you would put in gas instead of petrol into your car. It was usually like 2 times cheaper than the regular car. And right now, these cars are actually, or the price of that is like 3 times higher than the actual gas, or 2 times. So this has changed rapidly. I mean, out of all the costs that the roastery has, I think gas is one of them that you can still manage or squeeze in. It obviously is high, but it can be very volatile and low predictability, because you used to have like stable contracts for 2 years, 3 years. And now the companies are sort of like using the parts of the agreements or of the contracts that they can sort of opt out from the price guaranteed, and they'll give you a market price plus a margin or something like that. And so you're like directly connected to the market, and there might be no gas at all, since we're supposed
so like how quickly is the price of gas changing now? Like they like maintain the price for
every week, sort of like you have different,
but yeah, they send you an invoice once a month or something. And yes, they allow themselves to change the price throughout the month. I don't know.
Yes, I'm not sure how exactly that works, but I think it's like once a month, or actually when I think it's like once a month. But
oh wow, so if this war, let's say, like, hopefully this doesn't happen, but if it gets like a lot bigger, like you wouldn't be able to roast coffee because there wouldn't be gas, right? Like
yes,
the extreme.
It is, yes, because technically, like, our roastery is connected, to so we have a gas in the building, so you just put it on and it gives you gas. And once there's no gas, I mean, you can put it on so you can buy some cylinders or something like that.
But I guess like Putin, sorry I interrupted. Putin backed out of the threat to make Europe pay in rubles for gas, right? Because
did he?
I don't know. I mean, I thought because at first he said unfriendly countries, but then it was like unfriendly countries outside Europe, I thought.
No, unfriendly. We were the number 2 on the list of unfriendly countries.
Okay.
So I think so it's pretty much still going on. There's like a crisis, department and the Ministry of Industry and Trade. So the minister is talking to all. So there is a gas pipeline going through the Czech Republic. So there's a lot of like politics around it as well. And I believe there's a bank in what's the name of the country? Switzerland. It's called the Gazprom Bank. So you would have to use the Gazprom Bank because it wasn't taken out of the SWIFT. Mm-hmm. So you would have to take your euros or whatever that is, then exchange it to rubles and then make the payments. But I believe they say like the contracts, like the writing says the payment should be done in euros. So they're trying to contradict that we don't care about any presidential decrees. This is the contract. You're supposed to pay in euros, so we're going to pay in euros and you should accept it. So that's what they tell us here. Is their strategy.
Yeah, it's kind of like those races that go head to head and which car swerves first kind of thing. I mean, I guess Putin needs the euros. I don't know what's gonna happen there, but I guess like there we see like the real consequence of Russian gas and the power it holds over people's lives, and how even though we can like create all these like fancy new worlds of specialty coffee, it could come down to the reality of like Putin turning off the gas pipe and I don't know. It's
maybe I mean there would be a ship coming from the US or Qatar, with the cylinders. So
yeah, I mean there's still solutions, right? But I mean for me it was kind of like it was a bit of a surprise to see that Germany was already kind of like putting out a warning that there could be rationing and that industry would be rationed first, and then that leads to like economic downturns. And I guess we're already talking about a European recession, right?
There's a lot of electricity coming from gas, actually. Like, I mean, if you want to go switch off coal mining, or I mean, coal like electricity, the usual go-to was gas because it was pretty stable for the last like 10 years.
Yeah, the transition.
There's going to be a lot of trouble around that. And that's the real trouble for the whole society. And yes, you cannot roast coffee as well. I think you would be able to circumvent somehow because this is actually a small amount of gas you need, but it might be hard to get and you might have interruptions, right?
Yeah, so this war, we're seeing the effect of how it's raising costs. And then now, it could be like people take advantage of that and speculate. So I guess like I see it in El Salvador, like wheat prices are going up to the point that local bakeries are like publishing that they're going to be raising prices. And when still like there hasn't been, we don't know yet the effect on the Ukrainian wheat harvest, or but that's already like speculation, right? People taking advantage of the war to raise prices on wheat, which directly affects how much they can eat.
And maybe I would be interesting. So let me ask you. So because I know Ukraine and Russia are big producers of fertilizers as well.
Yeah.
So there might be they won't be producing or exporting that, or it might be scarce. So what's your pick on that? I mean, what do you see happening in El Salvador?
Yeah, well, it's I hate the word petrochemical, right? And I guess a lot of like fertilizers are tied to that. So it is a bit of like you're in this trap that if you want to produce coffee, and you don't want your production to collapse, because like if your production collapses, then you can't cover your cost and your farm goes broke, right? So you're scared of not fertilizing, so you have to buy this more expensive fertilizer, and fertilizer prices have gone up by a lot. I don't know, it could be up to double. Yeah.
Wow.
And in some, I don't know, like, so the issue right now is that like you can't negotiate, like because also like keep in mind that El Salvador is like a very small country, so a lot of these things aren't really worth it. Like if you're a big fertilizer company, there's such little consumption in El Salvador that why should we set up there? So for example, I guess like the one of the biggest fertilizer companies in the world is a Norwegian company called Yara. And so there's Yara Guatemala, and they're like good quality fertilizers. And they're in Guatemala. So like here, what you have is like a small distributor that goes to Guatemala, buys and brings it here, takes care of all the paperwork, bureaucracy to bring in, because you have to go through all these registries and,
Yep.
and then so it's really, so they don't hold stock, because I'm like, okay, I want to make my cost plan for the year, and I'm like, I know I'm going to need this amount of fertilizer. Let's sit down and negotiate a price right now at the beginning of the year, and you make these deliveries in these dates, sign a contract for the whole thing, right? And they're not able to do that because the price of fertilizer is changing. So they make like offers that they can hold for a certain amount of time, and we're seeing that amount of time being reduced. Like they're basically, prices of fertilizer are changing every week. So right now they're giving like 8 days. Like they make you a proposal, and so it's very disorganized. Let's say like some people fertilize 3 times in the season, some people 4, or and then like you have to end up like negotiating each, like at the last minute, like what's the price, like like I don't know. So there's no stability, and it's just like let me, I'll just sit here and wonder like how much am I going to get screwed by, right? So so like the solution for that is like getting into compost and all sorts of like creating like your own fertilizer locally using microorganisms and all that. But that's like a huge change, so it's like like a coffee farm is like this like very like slow moving boat that you're gonna take a while changing directions. I feel, unless you're like you have like millions that you can just waste, while everything kind of like while you learn, like if I would just stop using all sorts of like professional fertilizer company that sells me products, if I would just stop immediately and just switch immediately to like 100% of my own compost, I would probably fuck it up, right? Because like the amount of compost you would need to produce, to cover hectares and hectares of coffee, I'm not there yet, like very small.
I wanted to ask that. So what would be the amount? Do you have any idea? Like, would it be like 100 times more than you're producing now or something like that?
I mean, I have no idea. It would be thousands more, and like, where would you source the material? It's like, I mean, I can use the, let's say like the coffee pulp, the parchment, break that down, mix it with like, I'm getting like wood chippers, and then like from the trimming of the coffee trees and the shade trees, we're not only making the coffee sticks, the dog sticks thing, but we can also wood chip it and mix it in with the pulp, and but there, I guess I could add like certain sands for some mineral, like, but I don't know if that would be enough input. I think I could take other farms' pulp if they don't want to move it and bring it to my, but I don't know. I would have to look for inputs. It might need, things I don't really know about. I mean, I was like, some people are growing alfalfa and adding alfalfa because it has certain proteins and stuff. And I don't know. I'm at the start of learning how to breed worms that are breaking down in a very small scale, making compost. So we're already using it for the nurseries. So all the new, all the new plants have like dirt and compost mix, and then more compost we're putting on the new plants that we've planted in the field. Yeah, so I mean, that's like kind of like learning how to be off grid and just roasting with solar power and growing coffee with your own compost.
Yeah. And how does this affect? Because I remember when I was in El Salvador earlier this year, so there were like farms of farmers that are, I think well positioned to sort of try to navigate this. Then where we traveled to Santa Ana, where there's a lot of like really like village smallholders. So how does that affect them actually? Like the fertilizer prices, are they using fertilizers at all?
Yeah, I mean, there's some farms that aren't using fertilizer. I mean, it's not like Burundi or Rwanda that they never use fertilizer. But there's definitely the case of very small farms that are semi-abandoned and they just let the trees grow up really high. Like, I mean, like here the government gives out certain products, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, like we just picked up, like they gave all the coffee producers in the country foliar sprays. So, adding nutrition through the leaves.
And did you get some? So did like a government official come to your farm, like, hey,
No,
Rodolfo?
you have to go to the distribution place and stand in line, and and if you don't go yourself, you have to make a paper for someone to stand in line. I mean, I mean, like last year they gave us for one round of rust spray. So that saves several $1,000s.
That's pretty good.
Like, thank you. It's kind of like it's not structured, right? It's just all of a sudden you hear that they're giving out a product and you might as well go and see what they're giving, right?
No, but it's politics actually. I mean, that's also the government has some sort of programs to support the producers, that I think it's in other countries as well. I heard in Brazil, I mean, when the prices are low, so the government even can buy coffee and then sell it later for profit and guarantee some prices.
Yeah, I think I think you gotta think for Brazil, it's still a very important product. For a country like Colombia, it's more of a social situation, right? Because you have like thousands and thousands, but I don't know how many, but so many small producers in Colombia. It's just like you drive for hours and hours of just like coffee and little farms all over the place, and they live at their farm. So there would be like a huge social problem. So Colombia in a way is more organized, it's more advanced, it has more money, it's like it has rubies, it has gas, it has, it's a big rich in resources, and I mean it has the ability and it has the organization to support their producers a lot more than a country in Central America. It's kind of, I don't know, where coffee is no longer that important.
So it's not as important in El Salvador?
No, I mean,
I will. So actually, I'm just going to tease you now. So I looked up the EU importing statistics for coffee, and there's more coffee being imported to the EU from Burundi than from El Salvador, actually. Just a little bit, but there is.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. What happened? Like, if you want to look at like the historics of it, well, first of all, we're in Central America, very close to the U.S., right? So I guess we would be shipping more to the U.S. and the U.S. buys less African coffees. So I'm sure not a lot of Burundi is going to the U.S. and it's mainly going to Europe, the Burundi crop.
Yep.
So there's that to consider. But also, so like, for example, I'll give you a very concrete story. Like my grandfather here in El Salvador used to sell to Mr. Neumann when
Mm-hmm.
the original Neumann was a young man. He would come here and buy from my grandfather, stuff like that. And then like we had the crazy policies of the 80s here in El Salvador where they said that we're not allowed to export coffee anymore. We have to sell it to the government. So we had government representatives going out with all the El Salvador coffee and just, probably getting a commission and, selling it at a low price. And then they would take a long time to pay us. So there we lost all the relationships basically for like 10 years or something like that. I don't know. I would have to ask for the specific time. Yeah. And then that's how, and then the volume of El Salvador collapsed during the war in the 80s in El Salvador, the Civil War. So all the big German roasters, they took us out of the menu, right? Like El Salvador used to be very present in all the big roasters, blends and stuff. And then there was no more supply and you had to deal with this government and it just got taken out and replaced by Guatemala. You have so many options. Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, like whatever. Like just, you buy another one. So that's what happened. So it's like recovering from that war. It's never going to happen. We're never going to get back to the volumes that we had because also climate change effects. We had a lot of low elevation coffee. So that's probably better to go for cacao right now. Okay, so like I'll tell you, like there's one thing like you can't you can't control nature. So for example, talking about cost of production, right? Lombardia this year, which is my low elevation farm, which is kind of like a disaster, right? Because my dad had this policy that each farm for him was its own business and you couldn't take money from one to save another. So he basically end of his life or his productive life, he didn't really care. And Finca El Salvador was like profitable, and Lombardia wasn't. So he kept investing less and less in it. And, I basically inherited it in like semi-abandoned conditions, right? And I'm trying to like recover it. So I'm investing a lot in it, and I'm raising the production every year. But then all the farms around there, it's like 900 meters, 1,000 meters, they're being abandoned. So, like this year, I have sectors of the farm that have 20% broca damage.
Wow.
So, I've never seen numbers like that. And I mean, we did everything. Yeah, I'm very aware of this broca. Like, we're doing several different techniques to deal with it. And you get this surprise, and then you're just like, well, just that one defect like completely eliminated any possibility of profitability in this farm. And it's just a surprise until like you're seeing it come in. I don't know, so
Yeah, I saw a lot of capacity, and so that was the most surprising to me. I mean, seeing all of the capacity to process and not really processing in El Salvador. So
Mhm.
really, it looked like a coffee country of the past to me,
Yeah.
sort of like. And I mean, we have been talking about it, so it wasn't that much of a surprise. But it's
Mhm.
it's always interesting to see that in person because the facilities are really big and they look old school. So.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, El Salvador is producing a lot up until like, you know, the late 70s, and then the war started, and then in the 90s it was recovering. But then low prices, leaf rust.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, and
bad.
it's like I seriously, I think the future of coffee is going to be, Africa, in the cheapest countries where there's like the most exploitation and you can find the cheapest manual labor, and in Brazil where you can mechanize. But
Mhm.
in countries like Costa Rica, El Salvador, unless we get a lot higher prices, it's just going to disappear, or
Yeah,
just going to be, it's just going to be geisha boutique little farms in the mountaintops that have to do tourism and all these other things to survive. That's how I see it. I mean, I see myself as like the last of the dinosaurs, kind of like,
hmm.
who the hell is going to want to like pick coffee, or like you need hundreds of people to pick coffee to just be available. That's some like it doesn't fit with a modern life of people wanting so many like consumer goods, and then the coffee price being so low. uh I don't really see it like right now. Even my most profitable farm, if I would really be honest, it doesn't make sense economically if you have to consider the risk of like all the inputs you have to purchase, and all the manual labor, and then the risk of just nature, destroying your crop in so many different ways. uh, it's not a business. It's not a business. But
Yeah, and I've
then,
yeah.
it's but it's that's why I'm adding more things to it, because like, I mean, if you look at like all the ramifications of it, like, okay, like we not only have our own farms, but we process other people's
Yeah.
coffee, so that's another business. We also like manage other people's farms, and then we export, and then I made the importing company in Europe, so I also import. um, so and I'm importing from other countries, and this is how like you can make a sustainable coffee business. But most people, first of all, wouldn't want to do that or deal with it or have the capacity to do it, or um you know uh but yeah, it's, if I would just be a farmer, I would probably be really really fucked, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
But
glad you aren't, but I wouldn't want
yeah,
to see you
but it's
like
like,
that.
I think like what makes my importing company interesting is that I have my own coffee and stuff. Yeah. um because like, let's say like a farm, there's a case that happened to me this year. I was expecting a certain volume from a certain producer, and they delivered a lot less.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah,
bad, like for the forecasting and yeah, for everything, every part of the
yeah.
relationship.
So like having your own farms guarantees a certain volume, and that like, you can create your own unique coffees. Yeah, but so that's why, I'm gonna go do like a gelato course. um I'm gonna go to Italy next month and do, and it's basically like all the different types of like gelato, sorbetto, granita, like doing gelatos without milk. Yeah, so I'm gonna do from beginner to advanced, and I don't know. I just see it as I want to have ways out for my coffee that aren't just selling green coffee, because I need to capture more value to make it sustainable in El Salvador. And in order to do that, I have to like go steps forward. And and I've decided that I'm not going to set up a roastery because there's already a lot of roasters, and my clients are roasters, so it makes no sense for me to compete. So I could just collaborate, with roasters and see about making a unique product. So I just, I need a break from being in El Salvador. I'm going to go do this course and just like see what ideas come out of the course of other things that I can do with my coffee.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I've seen it around, so I'm gonna pick up on that a little bit, because I think a lot of like, I mean, specialty coffee is popular. That's great for everyone who is, doing business with that, or just concerned with that, or is a consumer that likes specialty coffee. And I think like there's a lot of, I mean, they like we were speaking of Ukraine, so there was a lot of nice coffee shops in Ukraine as well, in Kiev. From what I've heard, like big ones, 3 stories, La Marzocco, Strada, everything. But I see coffee shops like that. I saw it in Costa Rica as well, or in Colombia, in Bogota. It's a really nice place. So like in producing countries, so I see a lot of like what we call the third wave coffee, whatever that means. I saw a lot more, because I started traveling again after COVID. A lot more of that in the producing countries. I remember I saw a little bit of that in Kenya as well, like in 2019. That's the last time I was there. That would be two things. I mean, specialty coffee shops and craft beer as well. I mean, there's a lot of craft beer around the world. But we're talking coffee, so I'm gonna stick to coffee. Like, I mean, I remember I got stuck uh, in Monteverde. That's a touristy place in Costa Rica this year, because I was supposed to travel somewhere, and then some of the group had COVID. So I got stuck there. So I spent quite some time there, and we found these nice coffee shops. And they have, I mean, they're serving anaerobic coffees that the neighbor is producing. It's a really nice coffee shop. They have really nice food. The barista comes and explains the coffee like the way you would get it. Like back in the few years, because now everybody is doing batch brew, and the baristas don't have time to talk to you about the coffee, but they still kind of had it back there. He would even like brew a V60 or something, tell you about the coffee, who's the producer. It was kind of nice experience. The coffee was really good. It was super fresh crop. And so I saw they're investing in that as well. And
I mean, that's definitely like a trend that's very interesting. Because it's and it also makes coffee more interesting as a product and as a grower. Because like if you're just like producing this seed that you don't even know what happens with it, and it just goes in a bag like far away, but instead you're like creating local consumption here, it makes it more fun, right? Like you can go into like the local coffee shop and like whose coffee do you have? I know that farm, like I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, that has to do with tourism, because I mean, they're doing the coffee farm tours there as well. And then they have a facility. I mean, there's like a small facility there where they're showing the tourists how they process it, but the actual processing facility is somewhere else. And when they take you there, it's a really developed one. They have there's like climate or like temperature control room where they do the fermentations for the anaerobics. So
I mean, that's a total trend of making your coffee production like a tourism thing, and agriturismo kind of concept. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a trend. And it's interesting that sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I just wanted to say that if you happen to be in Costa Rica, Monteverde, go to Choco Cafe, because it's a really nice place. So it's just small advertising.
Sponsor of these talks.
No, I don't think so. But they had really nice food and good memories. Yeah, sorry to interrupt.
I mean, no worries. What was I gonna say about that? Oh no.
Agroturismo, man. And we ended up there. Yeah, maybe you should start agroturismo in Finca El Salvador. But yeah.
I mean, yeah, like we have some ideas, like with the coffee school that we're doing. We're in the middle of negotiating like a little farm up in the Santana volcano that already has a cabin. So that would be like a place for people to stay. And we're gonna do an international week in August, at the end of August. But you know, the idea is to do like academic tourism. So like the concept is that we already we're exporting right now like 2 containers for that project. So it's we're going to be selling like 83-point washed coffees as a way of like financing this coffee school. So we're setting up a coffee school in a small producer area up in the Santana volcano, where a lot of like the best coffees of El Salvador came from. And like we're selling washed coffee to finance that. So we're gonna have like like eventually, this is just a plan right now, but if we can buy a house at the lake here, it's in front of the Santana volcano, so it's like a place where people can come and stay at the lake, and then go up to the Santana farms, come back and stay at a nice lake. So we can do courses for locals there, like barista kind of stuff, and host international weeks for visitors who want to learn like the basics of like farming, processing, stuff like that. So, we're going to do a test in August. Like it's going to be the first like week that we do. So we'll see how it goes. It's definitely a trend. I was going to say something about, I don't remember anymore. Oh, well. Let me see.
Yeah, good luck with the gelato anyways. I mean, if you're selling, I mean, I wasn't really sure, so maybe you can explain as well. So the idea is I understand it can develop and change and go here and there. So you want to make like coffee, like gelato from coffee, actually?
Well, so basically, so the tourism that's actually taking off here in El Salvador is by the beach, because there's like surfer beaches here. So there's something interesting going on down by the surfer beaches. El Salvador has a lot of like beaches and mountains. So like it's happening. Like the Parducci's farm is right there, like right above that beach. And so a friend of ours is opening like a vegan restaurant there. There's a lot of international surfer backpacker kind of thing. And, so we're going to give him coffee. And I thought, like, let's make it fun. I get a little gelato machine. And we give him gelato at the beach, make like gelato from things that we grow in the farms. And I can do like a little test here that I could learn to eventually do something somewhere else, right? As well, because here it's always going to be very small scale. I don't imagine making a huge gelato company here. It's just like having like something to enjoy that I can do, that so I'm not just like producing coffee, and I get to go to this beach and interact and see my gelato. I don't know. It's just
no, it's exactly the trend. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
No,
Now
I understand. Yeah.
Eventually my super big hope would be to set up like kind of like a big coffee to go company that has different modules, but that's just like ideas in my head. I don't know, but whatever. It's just like picking up life skills, because it's trends. Like let's say I did the cacao course. So I learned how to do bean to bar, and it was very interesting because El Salvador used to produce a lot of cacao. What's going to happen with all the low elevation farms where coffee no longer grows well? A lot of people are planting cacao. So I already have I have a friend who switched his family's farm that's at 900 meters completely. All the coffee's gone, and now it's a cacao farm and it's producing. I'm planting a little bit of cacao in Finca El Salvador and in Finca Lombardia. So I did a bean to bar course, and I just, I have that like skill in my pocket that at some point I could use or not, but it's like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to do like diversify from being just a coffee producer to being a multi-crop kind of like horeca supplier. That's kind of like the twist I'm seeing, so I mean, like,
yeah.
That's hibiscus.
Hibiscus, yeah.
Like hibiscus.
How does it? Does it smell good? Like if you put your head into the.
Yeah, it smells like like red fruits and very sweet. Yeah, I mean, I love like I do like cold brew hibiscus tea for myself. I've been drinking it for a few years. I just buy like the hibiscus leaves, and you brew it in cold water over one night, and then I drink it cold. It's super refreshing. So like last year we did a small test, and we have small amounts, and then this year like we're actually going to do like 2 hectares of hibiscus. So I don't know. I mean, that's a product that I can dry in the same raised beds that I dry the coffee, and I can ship in the container.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening right now.
Oh, are you stuck there, or like you can't move? Oh no. There. Oh.
No, it's all right now. Well, I mean.
No, it's not working. Hello? Technical difficulties?
A little bit, yes. So we can continue where we ended. You kept the recording.
Yeah, I mean, so hibiscus, it's something that I could, distribute.
Yeah, good luck with that. I mean, I'm not sure what, I mean, I would buy it. I mean, it's nice. I mean, if it's a good ingredient, and
yeah.
I mean, it comes from the same farmer, so I can showcase it in our cafe. I'm not sure if I'm able to sell it to someone else because, I mean, I know you, and it makes sense for me to have more products from you. I'm not sure if I would be able to translate it to other customers, but I mean, even if just one roaster in a country goes with that, it might be a small business that is sustainable. I mean, we're again talking about sustainability. I'm not sure if I want to dive there because I'm sure that would be worth a special topic on coffee and politics. But yes, sustainability means that people make more money in origin countries for their produce because otherwise they won't do it and they will switch to cacao and there will be no coffee to drink. So like what you mentioned actually, like that El Salvador or Central America becoming like a boutique sort of producing countries. I wonder what that would make to the coffee price because I mean there's a lot of coffee from Brazil. There's still a lot of coffee from Vietnam, then Honduras, which is there was a lot of coffee from Honduras coming to Europe. I was surprised by that. And then there's Uganda. There's a lot of Robusta from Uganda. Uganda is by far the biggest imports from Africa, way bigger than Ethiopia, which brings in Arabica. So that was what you mentioned. I imagine what you mentioned, like the cheap labor and low quality coffee. That would be Uganda. Yeah, like they say there's no the climate change is a big issue as well because they say they may not able to produce as fruity coffees in Kenya as they were before because of how climate changes.
I think that's mainly variety. That
Okay.
They used to have those SLs, and then they've been planting these like rust resistant hybrids, and I think it's more going on that direction.
Okay. Anyway, I mean that would be politics again involved, because there's big government programs, sponsoring these rust-resistant varieties, and that's a lot of voters in, in the regions, and yeah, millions of people are dependent on income from coffee there. Speaking of Kenya, so it can be very sensitive in the countries to change something, or how the prices affect, how the prices of the coffee actually change how society goes. So you mentioned Colombia, that would be another good example, but it might be smart
now I remember what I was going to mention.
Okay, your turn.
When we got into the local consumption, right?
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, I think it was growing, and then with the pandemic, like companies here don't have the same support that European coffee shops got and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So imagine that. I think like the World Barista Champions coffee shop went broke here during the pandemic, right? I mean, so
yeah, it's good that you brought it up, because actually I wanted to talk about it too. I wanted to ask, because again, I'm talking about Costa Rica. So I asked the question, like they told me like everything has been closed for such a long time, and I think Costa Rica is like the richest country of Central America, sort of in average. And so I asked, were there at least any compensations, like the naive European kind of tourist guy, and they were very calm in answering, like, we don't have enough money for that. So I actually wanted to ask today, like during this talk, on how hard was the hit of COVID for people in El Salvador. I mean, they be them coffee shops or even coffee producers. Did they actually lose like a lot of money, or did the coffee export somehow, continue and wasn't really affected from the producer side? Because I don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like I only work with like specialty, and we didn't really have much trouble at all. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, like I think like it's hard to tell with this country, because a lot of money is being sent from the U.S. So it's like kind of like an artificial economy. If you would just stop like all the flow of money from the U.S., then you would really see the local trends like hit a lot more. But I mean, I think I read that more than 100,000 Salvadorians were stopped at the border in the U.S. this year. So for a country of 6 million to have 100,000 that were caught at the border, so how many went through? So obviously if we're having like so much immigration, yeah, but I'll give you an example. Like one of my employees, like he never went to a university. He's like a technical person who learned about coffee processing just by working at a coffee mill and learning how all the machines work. And then he learned how to be, a cupper and stuff. So I was paying him like $1,200 a month, free for him, plus like bonuses at the end of harvest. And I think that's a very good salary for here. And even that was not enough for him. And so he wants to go to the United States illegally, because he has a brother that works there. So even like someone, imagine like, I mean, I think if you were getting that amount of money in Burundi, you probably wouldn't like be going anywhere, right? But if here 1,200 is not enough, and someone's still considering leaving his family and walking towards the United States and the risk of being arrested or dying in the desert, and that's still like attractive to you, then that kind of tells you like the cost here, like how high it is, and then just like all this money being sent by relatives from the States. So then like, your neighbor gets all this money and they buy a new TV, the car, and then like you see all this consumption going on around you. So it's like, it creates this like frustrating kind of thing, and then this attraction to just go to the States. And I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for being open with the salaries. Just to put this in perspective, the amount you mentioned is roughly the average salary in the Czech Republic, which like I think average is like 60% of employees in the Czech Republic actually don't earn, because the average is always obscured by the highest paid. So it's interesting to see, because sometimes you mentioned in the first, or in the introduction of the series, how we see a lot of marketing stories that are being told about coffee. So the one of the archetypal is like how you're helping with your like conscious consumption somebody that's poor to be less poor, have a good livelihood or something like that. But I think not many people here would think of a farmer as a person, or people involved in coffee in origin as a person earning like the same amount of money they do at a different part of the world. So I don't think there's a lot of imagination on how the situation in coffee countries actually is, because I mean it can be very different from different regions, but I think people don't really realize how life is in Central America, and even I was surprised that is quite expensive in El Salvador. So I would have I didn't mind, but I would have, I mean, if you asked me like before I went, I would have guessed the prices are lower than they really are. So that creates a lot of pressure. I mean, when there's inflation, I mean, there's a lot of inflation here in the Czech Republic. It's right now it's like 11% officially, but the consumer basket has been like created in like the 1960s. So the actual inflation might be a little higher, because the things that are counted in the official like statistics of inflation are really old school, that I mean I don't even buy sometimes, or not many people I would know. I mean, they're the bigger society obviously is constituted of different types of people, but I think it's even higher. But in the coffee countries, some of them it can be, I mean, even, I mean, in Ethiopia, which is in war as well, or it's like a civil war, it's like up to 35% this year from what I've read. So that's like 3 times bigger than here. And the coffee prices there are going a little up, but I'm not sure if they're like matching the prices that we will be seeing. I mean, we're starting to slowly see the coffee prices of Ethiopian coffee. So what we're buying is I don't know, like 10-15% more expensive than last year, but it's the grade 1 qualities. From what I've heard, like the grade 2, grade 3 qualities, they are the ones that they went up. So they're probably compensating for like the cherry prices that were like double the price last year. So the cherry price there should have been like 70 birr for 1 kg of cherry. That would be like $1.2 per kg of cherry in Ethiopia. So that might create a big difference for the lowest income people in coffee.
I mean, I don't know. We'd have to look at the details of those numbers. if that's like cherry weight or
cherry weight.
Cherry weight, and then you'd have to look at like the conversion rates of outgrowers from cherry to green. It might
like 1 to 7.
Yeah, it might not be so good. Like, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like no, but I was wondering like how like the world has shaken in my perspective. Like COVID has shaken it, and now the wars or the war in Europe has shaken at least Europe. And
yeah, because
we see.
Sorry.
No, we see things volatile in all parts of the world, and I wonder how it will translate into everybody's lives after a year or two. So that's a lot of questions on my side, really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the world's always volatile.
It seems more volatile now than it was before.
We're in a period. Yeah, I guess yeah. Well, yeah. I guess like what the messiest period since World War II, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I was starting a roastery right now, I'm not sure if that
would. You would have been,
in
the '60s during the Cuban Missile Crisis and all that. I mean, that would have been a tense time as well, no? With turmoil.
Yeah. You can have a very nice consumer culture, like in West Berlin, in the 1960s and 70s, where you're actually encircled and you're the like center of the Cold War. So yeah, people thrive.
I see your point. We're definitely end of times.
I don't know, but it's just it translates into prices of coffee somehow, and I don't think, honestly, like we can tell what will be prices of coffee, whether they will be the same in 3 years or whether they will be higher and they will benefit the producers, or they will be higher and nobody will benefit.
You know what I think? Like the price of coffee is so low that even the price doubling is not enough. So yeah.
I can I mean, I know the argument. I understand that, but I think it would change the economy of a lot of roasters, like here in Europe. I mean, they wouldn't be able to absorb the double prices, or they would have to raise their prices.
I mean, but what I this is just a simple observation, but I think like the roaster's margin is quite high, and there's a lot of laziness that could be cut around there. Like, I'm not saying your company, I'm saying like in general, the margin. I mean, the roasters.
Yeah, there. I mean,
the roaster's margin's bigger than the farmer's margin, right?
It is. Yes. Yeah. I know. I mean, I mean, there was an interesting podcast. I think it was by Tim Wendelbo and the Coffee Collective. It's just recently. So where they and then the Coffee Collective did like some research with the university, what should be the right price be, and they have this project. It's called transparent coffee pricing, and people provide data to for what they buy coffees. So there's a lot of roasters, and so they were saying like the good price for coffee should be at around like $5 US per pound or something like that.
Yeah, that should be like the minimum for my 83s. And then yeah, and then they could be that could make like coffee a little bit more sustainable. But yeah, I mean, it's at today it's at 228. Yeah, and when you have employees that want cars, they want their own house. People want consumer goods that are expensive. And at 228, like, you really need a situation of like exploitation to make it work. See, no, I'm being serious. Like, but like providing, like, okay, like here we had a 20% increase in the cost of wages, labor, right? Due to politics, like, right? They were investigating El Salvador, and at the same time they raised the minimum wage. I mean, so that's a political decision because it wasn't planned or anything. Yeah, I think it's really hard to make it work. And yeah, no, it's like, it would really, it would have to be at $5 a pound commercial coffee to make it worthwhile and actually leave like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like put all this money and I'm gonna probably get a profit from this. Yeah, but at 228, I mean, that's why I say, like, I'm paying above 300, like above, like, let's say like here the people will do like the max that we get people to do is 7 hours a day of work in a farm. Because some people, they like here, they got like what people were doing here is that when they raised the minimum wage, they would ask people to work less hours, which I find kind of weird. And then so people got used to like coming to the coffee farm in the morning, like coming early and kind of finishing doing like maybe like 6 hours all in a row, and then going home to have a late lunch and work in their house and in their like cornfield or something in the afternoon. So that's what people were used to. And the most I can get people to work is 7 hours. And then they want to, and we do a lunch pause. So like right now, let me see, because it's also like people want to get paid like here you pay at the farms every 2 weeks. People don't have bank accounts. I've tried opening them bank accounts. It's a pain in the ass. So you basically have to like take them someplace, spend money every 2 weeks, gathering all your workers, taking them somewhere and paying them in cash. So I'll give you the numbers of the like so if you pay them every 2 weeks, you have 200, like you have 26 payments a year, so let me see, divided by 12. Okay, so right now, let's say like the minimum wage for like coffee farming, like real prices that we're paying, adjusted per month would be $251. That's like the monthly salary of like a person that's working 7 hours. Yeah. And like I think like so then like you read that Ethiopia, the monthly wage, and this is like urban. I haven't found a number for like what they're paying people who work at a mill or a farm, but $10 a day a month, $10 a month is what I found for like industry. So like if we're both doing manual labor in Ethiopia and El Salvador, and I have to pay every worker $251, and in Ethiopia they pay $10 or less, who's going to be more profitable, or so and I have to compete in this kind of commodity, because even specialty is a kind of commodity, against these costs. So yeah, I mean, so that's why I think when I see like the social trend of what people want to do here or willing to do, like, I mean, I have like permanent workers the whole year, and I want to have like trained people the whole year, but then for harvest you need more people, and where are you going to find in the future all these people that are just like lying around just waiting for you to call them for harvest? You really have to have this mass of like people just lying around, which apparently like they do in Ethiopia, because like it's like very populated, and as you drive around you just see all massive people coming out of places and stuff. Yeah, so I mean, I think like coffee is a very sensitive plant. It's a lot of labor to maintain it, and I don't really see people being interested in doing that too much. So you see that like like in Wewe, people in Huehuetenango, the best coffee of probably Central America is a Terroir or whatever. Like they're just right next to Mexico, so I can just walk into Mexico and like go to the States. So people are even selling their farms in Wewe because they can't find workers. And so climate change, cost of production going up, people wanting better lives. It's very hard to provide for all that with $2.28 a pound.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I mean, I never meant anything bad when saying like you would need to raise your prices here and stuff like that. I mean, I realized there's a lot of internal, disparities in the coffee value chain. So I am just wondering how it will turn up and how it will change. I mean, people's lives here. So that's my considerations, because we're like a bigger company now. I mean, we're still pretty small in the world of coffee, but with a lot of small roasters, I think they would be a lot more sensitive, because coffee is a cash flow. It's not really easy to, like wherever the closer to origin, the more problems with cash flow. And, already for the roasters, they need to like some operational capital. And I think if the prices change from year to year, for like 40%, like or 50% or 70% what they were used to, they might not be able to accommodate that easily.
Well, like you buy cheaper
that's what I meant.
coffees, and right, is that the adjustment? Like buying cheaper stuff?
I wouldn't know. I mean, like if you have it under, I mean, you're undermining your brand or your label. I mean, people. So if we spend 10 years educating our customers, what's good coffee and what's not so good, yeah, some of them would be able to tell after that period of time. So you wouldn't be able to do that, I think. You might try it. I don't know. I mean, some people probably will.
Yeah. Well, and let's say I'll give you like a concrete example. I have a client who's using a Brazilian coffee, and they ordered a certain amount, and we agreed on a price, and that coffee is being delivered and all that, and or it was delivered, and then they realized they needed more, right? And they wanted the same coffee, and it's like months later, and that there's still some of that coffee, but to be able to buy it now, that same coffee that they negotiated months ago, like first of all, like for these volume Brazilian coffees, like the producer in Brazil decided to float the price with the market. And obviously, like, when the price doubles, it was good for them. Right. So we were seeing the price going up, and then the roaster, like, it became a more volatile moment. And I guess like with my El Salvador's, like I can offer a bit more price stability. And then when you're looking at coffees that are dependent on the C market, and then the C market's going so wild on like all this speculation, it was going up, and then the war, and it goes down a little bit, and so it was a moment of the container crisis, container prices going up, the euro falling in value. So you have all these different situations that add up to like, hey, this same coffee now it costs a bit more, and right, and then it's like outside of their range of what they could offer it as, right? So now they have to consider a different coffee, and so
that's what I meant.
Very concrete choices. But then I guess that that's always a trend, like how when like Vietnam started producing more Robusta, a lot of the big companies incorporated more Robusta into their blends, and in the end most consumers probably don't notice that much, or I don't know. Yeah. But I mean, we should end this somewhere, right? Like
it's almost 2 hours. I was just looking at it. Yeah.
No,
like
really,
I mean,
no.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. We're getting there.
We started at like 12:30 something at the local, like an hour or something.
It's almost 10 p.m. here, and I think we started 5 minutes past 8. I mean, maybe certainly past 90 minutes.
But no, but I mean, but we were chatting at first. We weren't
For a
recording.
while, yeah.
Okay. Any conclusions? I guess this is our first talk. We kind of drifted a bit.
Yeah, the world is volatile, and there's a lot of coffee and politics involved. I mean, I think we'll talk volatility every time we pick up with this series. Yeah, I think it's going to be a theme. But yeah, this was a very interesting discussion to me because some of the things we tried to discuss were like really big picture things, and some of the things we tried to discuss were like really personal experience. And I think it's always like when the world changes, or at least what I do, is, try to somehow relate the bigger trends of what's going on in the world to the very practical matters that happen in your life and to talk about them. So I think we managed that, and yeah, I'm happy to make Coffee and Politics a successful series with you. It's fun to talk with you, and yeah, let's get a little more focused next time and
yeah,
a little shorter maybe as well.
Yeah. I mean, we agreed 1 hour, and then yeah, I guess like this was the general introduction, and then for each new talk that we do, we're gonna have a specific topic that we're gonna deal with, right?
Yeah, let's not promise the topic for next time because
we
need
have
come
to
up
decide.
with that.
Yeah, we have to decide the next topic. Okay. Great chatting with you, and we'll upload this soon.
Okay, yeah. Thanks for having me, and yeah, let's continue with Coffee and Politics, and let's hope we're all safe whenever we are.
Great. Awesome.
All right. Thank you.